Hello everyone, here's Toby from abletondrummer.com, and here are my 5 cents on why the Ableton Push 3 Standalone is not made for me and what I'm missing. So, first of all, it is a really difficult review because Ableton Live is something I love, and a lot of people are feeling much more connected to the software and the brand than to any other software. So I think one of the reasons for that is because Ableton Live is so highly customizable, not only in your workflow but what you can use it for. So there are so many different people using Ableton Live in so many different ways. And just being able to make little things possible via Max for Live, for example, which is like the field I'm an expert on, and I design a lot of Max for Live devices to make live looping look like on an RC505, or to make a bigger session display where you can see a bar countdown, seeing when you're going into the next part, etc. So all those little things are really exciting for people and giving people a way. This is my instrument. This is something where I can create something and step over boundaries of what's possible. So with the Push 3 Standalone and generally with the Push, you are bound to a certain workflow. You can access parameters only via the dials, for example, and Max for Live devices have to be set up to be accessible via the dials here. So this is just one example of showing you, well, actually this is only possible to a certain extent, and if you want to add a track, if you want to do stuff, the workflow is gonna be set to this one system. Plus, if you're using Ableton Live, and if you want to use it live on the Push 3, there are standalone, there are a lot of things which you are not going to be able to customize. So for example, Max for Live integration is very limited at this point so far. I will talk a little bit about that later on. ClefX, so if you're customizing stuff via Midi remote scripts, currently you can't load your own remote scripts on there. You can only use remote scripts which are already on here. They work great, but if you want to customize stuff, not possible. If you're using native things like using dummy clips to automate track on and off, you can't set it up on the Push 3 Standalone. You can always set up stuff on your computer, and most of the things will work on the Push 3 and just being transferred, but you can't change those things and can't set it up. Which brings me to my second point, which is they're missing core features compared to Ableton Live on Mac and PC. So there are quite a few. I want to point out two things here. So you don't get the arrangement view. So if you want to edit songs, if you want to arrange songs, if you want to arrange your tune, you're gonna end up sending stuff over back to your PC or Mac and edit stuff on there. Okay, so one could say, well, but this is like used for sketching ideas down and for recording stuff and making an idea and staying in the flow, and then maybe editing is happening later onwards. Then I think, okay, but if I'm focusing on session here, why am I not getting scene follow actions so that scenes are jumping automatically to the next part? So same here as well. If you have scene follow automation set up on your Mac or PC and then transfer the set, they are on there, but you can't access them. At this point you can't access scene follow actions, you can't set them up, you can't edit them. So this is pretty weird, because if the focus is on session view, I would like to get like the full session view environment, especially for this price. And yes, maybe it will get updated, maybe it will come, but I don't know yet, and that's maybe a sub point here. I would like Ableton not to be that old school with their marketing strategy and just shooting out and giving people ideas of what's possible, but maybe putting out a list of, look guys, we are planning to do this, or we are looking into this and this and that. So for example, I know that there's gonna be a user mode at some point, but currently user mode not available in the software version. So I get that it's like it might be a problem for bigger company, competition, not making false promises, etc. But I think it could need a different way of communicating, because people really love Ableton Live and really love, like, would be understandable if there would be some kind of direction, because at this point you can feel like, well, actually I bought this thing, it is not cheap, I understand this, because you get some great value, but on the software side here there are crucial things missing, which can be crucial for some users, might not be a problem for other users. So Ableton has to navigate through, what's the priority here, but it doesn't feel like, okay, this thing is ready. Okay, so another point where it doesn't feel it's ready is the whole Max for Live integration, or the whole information here as well. So for example, as a Max for Live developer myself, this is the beauty of Ableton Live, and I have a lot of devices, so if you want to check them out, just check out the links in the video description. So, and Max for Live, for Max for Live developers at this point, there is very there's at this point there is no information. It's what's gonna work and what not. So a lot of my devices are working, but they are not designed for the Push 3. So the whole visual monitoring stuff, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to access the screen via Max for Live. Yes, I know I can set up the encoders, and this is the only way to access parameters via the 8 dials here. So but if I'm seeing, and that's what the current state is, even packs and Max for Live devices you can buy from Ableton's homepage are not set up, some of them, not all of them, just making this point, even some of them are not set up to be accessible via the dials, but they are being sold. It's kind of like giving me, or it's communicating me that this part is not necessarily on the priority on Ableton's agenda at this point. They announced there will be a developer's guide, but it's not accessible now. There is a link which leads to just the normal homepage, etc. As you know, so yeah, things will be coming, but it's hard to, at this point, it's hard to say, like, well, actually, do I want to spend time on that, developing stuff or fixing bugs or whatever. It's not really, it doesn't feel like it's connected, and it's connected to the community at this point. Okay, so obviously one could say, hey, Toby, this is a closed system. This is like a slimmer version of Ableton Live running on the Push 3 standalone. Just stick to the limits, but on the other side you can get everything in one box, and you can use this to perform live. So this is one of the selling points here. So if you look a little bit deeper on that, I would say yes, that's like, generally the idea is exciting, but if we look a little bit deeper, there are things where I think, like, well, actually, well, that's not really out of one box concept. First, there's a lot of going back to to your desktop or Mac version. Plus, yes, you get ins and outs integrated, which is a great feature, but you get a little bit of a humming on the headphones, which is not loud at all. It's totally workable, but it's still, you know, it's a little weird. But this makes sense, because if you have everything in one box, you're gonna have problems like this. So for recording, for playing live, so for example, you don't get any direct monitoring things like you would get even on the cheapest Focusrite here. So you just click direct monitoring, and if you record something, if you record your vocals or your guitar, it will get sent straight to your headphones without any processing. And that makes sense because you're introducing a little bit of latency when converting analog to digital and digital to analog. So you have to deal with latency, and you need to find a way to deal with latency. And one of those really good ways doing this in Ableton Live is seeing the numbers, checking your buffer size, etc. And then you can see in the preferences in Ableton Live, okay, I'm now at this input and output latency. I don't get these values on here, so I have to play it all by ear, which is doable, but it still feels like if I want a professional thing running here, it is a little bit weird, and I can't access, and this is a really big problem. I can't access the delay compensation on the Push 3 standalone. So I can access this on the Mac and PC. And let me quickly explain. If you put on one track, if you put an audio effect or an instrument which is introducing latency, everything, the whole audio signal, everything what is coming out from Ableton Live is being pushed back, so that all the audio signals are lining up. Makes perfect sense, especially for producing, so you have everything lined up. Okay, so if I now get this for live, and if I'm introducing latency via audio effects I want to use via instruments, I then have the problem that the voice or the live audio signal, my singing or whatever I'm putting in, is gonna be pushed back here as well. So in this particular use case, I want to be able to switch off the delay compensation so that I can still like perform with my voice, doing some other effects, running or recording or live looping or whatever, and I can't turn off the delay, like the delay which is being introduced. What I can do in Ableton Live on the Mac and PC, and this is a crucial point where I would say, well, actually, you could run into serious issues you can't fix on the Push 3 standalone at this point for playing live with it. So there is another and one other example of for the world of like modular synth and using other MIDI gear, like synth gear you want to sync to a clock from Ableton. So usually in Ableton Live preferences you're getting this MIDI clock sync delay function where you can set the timing right for sending the MIDI clock out or receiving the MIDI clock. Not accessible on here in the preferences. There might be always workarounds. There isn't for the delay compensation so far, but there might be workarounds always via using external instruments, via using different Max for Live devices to delay some MIDI clock stuff here. But I just feel it should be built in the concept here. Those are crucial features which should be in here to say this thing, or for me to say, well, use this thing for live. Okay, so let's try to sum this up a little, because I'm not pointing out all the good things here, MPE pads and yeah, some connectivity stuff, which is really cool if your workflow is the push workflow and you like the push workflow in general, and then this could be for you. But obviously this thing can't meet all expectations from all Ableton Live users, and still just only proving the concept. I would say Push 3 standalone needs a lot of work at this point, but I'm looking forward to what's gonna develop out of this idea. So obviously I have a lot of props for Ableton pulling this off in the first place, writing their own Linux OS. This is really cool, and I hope maybe in a few years we're gonna be able to use an OS and starting our Macs or PCs, running those with this OS, and then having some really optimized OS system. We can use even older computer. That would be really sustainable. Using old computers to run Ableton Live in a really efficient way. So I see that there is a lot of potential coming here, and a new step in this whole world is made. I'm just saying at this point, Push 3 Standalone is only for a certain user group, which is just like, maybe it's the main targeted user group here for Ableton Live. I get this, I understand this, but it's not made for live performance as soon as, I don't want to make this general judgment. I mean, I pointed out the points. I think, well, this, that, it's kind of like, sorry guys, it's not really there yet for my market, for my use definitely, and for my clients. I don't see this at this point. Okay, cool. So if you want to join the conversation, or if you want to leave a comment, what I observed, like there were some really harsh sides, or really straight sides from opinion about the Push 3 Standalone, coming from two sides. Please have a conversation if you want to put in a comment, and try to maybe point out from where you're coming from. If you're a live musician using Ableton for live stuff or for recording, or if you're a beat producer, or all this kind of, so because it's important to understand where you're coming from, to understand why you're thinking this or that. So that would be helpful if you put in comments. I might do some Macs for live devices for the Push 3. Yet if there is a link for Push 3 devices, it will be I have released stuff on there at this point. Okay, cool. Take care.